our relevance. No one can question the relevance of women in the political space and our participation in terms of the various representations of elective reference would be, whether it's from the party level to, party politics, to the primaries, to all of that engagement, all the way through to the various offices that administrate and direct the course, as we say, of election engagement. No. The challenge is our positioning. And there's a hierarchy, not just of the patriarchy now, not even about the self-limiting beliefs, but about the conundrum itself. What happens within the political space when you are politicking? How do you outwit the politricksters? Because they will always be there. And the reality I've come to understand is, if we look at this whole presentation as the city of Troy, we must determine just what our Trojan horses are going to be and the Trojan horse strategy for women is going to be. I think the greatest challenge of our positioning is in our Trojan horse presentation. I won't just say and qualify that, oh, the men have it this way. It's much more than the men. It's an institutionally entrenched hierarchy that works its way, has been working at this, and has not so much perfected as it is, has very deliberately and intentionally set up the course with very resistant milestones, very resistant points of entry, very resistant points of engagement, so that for me, looking at it and my experience, I would say, because we talk about the consultations at one level, I was told, go, it's local and everything. I went as local and as basic as it gets. And from the 62 wards and the 6 area councils of Abuja, I won the heart of the people, including the indigents. However, where I found the real thrust, the challenge erupted, was in the place of the stakeholders, the ones who actually were the gatekeepers in the place, not even of the delegates now, but of those who control the delegates.
Wow.
And with those controlling the delegates, it wasn't even so much controlling, but controlling the space, because I got the delegates. I got the doctored list, I got the new venue, I got all of that. But what I didn't get was their internal dynamics that twisted the outcome so that winning and rigging became the real contention. And I asked myself the question, should women therefore ask how to rig in order to win? Or do we say, understanding how they rig, so that one can institutionally rearrange your own structures, not just to win in terms of numbers on your strategy, but actually to win the outcome in the place of influencing your stakeholders, because the stakeholders hold it, and you have to be able to navigate through that space and negotiate with them for your own position as a woman. Because I think it's not just enough to be a woman running in the race. That's the other thing I must mention. Make sure you're a winner in the race, running as a woman.
Thank you. There was so much from that conversation, and although I was struggling a bit to hear what Auntie Daya was saying, but personal experience with Auntie Daya, we had a meet-up one time, and trust me, I knew that she has what it takes. And trust me, likes, charges attracts each other. And that was one of the things that it's not a wonder the outcome of primaries when people that you think are most qualified do not get a ticket. And just like she mentioned, it's not about the delegate, it's about the people that are controlling the entire stakeholders that really, really drive the outcome of primaries. And it's really, there's a lot to it. And just like she said, it's not a question of whether we're relevant. Without a doubt, women are very relevant in politics. But how visible, and are we given the right the right reward in terms of the quota we bring to the table and the value we bring to the political space? Is it commensurate with the recognition we get? Is a totally different conversation entirely.
Okay, let me just quickly go on a very short break. Okay. When we come back from the break, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we are discussing how relevant are women in the political terrain in Nigeria. And we have Dayo Benjamin Lani with us live from Abuja. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at Wayshow Africa 1 with the hashtag Wayshow. Manny, you had a question, or so that I just quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, not a question. I just wanted to talk about what resonated with me more with what Auntie Dayo, you said, Auntie Dayo, yes, what she said. So she talked about...
Manny, I'm unable to hear you.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're having struggles. Can you hear me now? Is it possible?
I can hear you, but I can't hear Manny.
Okay, so I'm going to speak up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I was talking about what she said and talking about what resonated with me more, you know. You said something about not just running the race. So we've already established the fact that, yes, well done, congratulations and all. You know, that's what we even said to Milola as well. But what you're saying is not just about running the race, it's about winning. So I like the fact that you're talking about winning. So talking with the stakeholders, because one thing I noticed about these primaries was the horse trading. So these people are shrewd negotiators. So what we saw was them bargaining, you know, and giving concessions. So even if we say that these people are doing this, the women need to learn how to do it. You understand?
So that's what begs the question about that relevance. Because you see, if you do not understand it, right, you can be there. But would we say that these guys, with or without women, can succeed? The answer is yes.
No.
I'm telling you.
No.
Okay, let me hear. Go ahead, ma'am.
But you know, what I'd like to say, Manny, and I'll tell you what sincerely, politics, before it's transformational, must be transactional.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes.
I'm an entrepreneur. I do business. There's nothing. Excuse me, please. Every one of us went to school. Did you go to school free? Even if it was free education, the government paid for it. You pay school fees, you pay for lessons, you pay for exams before you emerge as whatever. It doesn't happen free of charge. Political space must be transacted for. Whatever you're going to do, going out to the terrain, we go to the wards, we're meeting the people, we're engaging them, we're speaking to personalities who direct the course of the choices from the delegate position of endorsing you, voting for you, to your crossing from the primaries into the general election space. Everything is a transaction to the final D-Day of emerging the overall winner from being a flag bearer. It's transactions. And call it horse trading. The truth of the matter is the principle of horse trading is finding the best horse for the race, or the best horse for the farm, or the best horse with which to ride a high society outing. You've got to make sure you check it out, check it through, and then you go to market, as we would say. You begin to do the haggle. Women are born for it. It's just that we are not made to understand that this is what you have to do. I love what I would call her our foremost female political nationalist, Dr. Insecurity, has done, setting up a political school, a school of politics, after her experience in the political terrain. Because I believe that there's a lot of political illiteracy, there's a lot of small-minded reference and representation that comes from the small talk that we use to frame politics every 4 years when it comes up. Having participated, being in it, you got to get into it, really, like I say, get into the mess to become a message or a messenger. What needs to change? What is pivotal? There are things that I've seen, that I understand, that are critical to the crux. And that is why, for me, running never stops once you start running in the political race arena. For me, it's like you keep your engine running, never switch it off. My engine is not switched off, it's still in running mode. All I have to do is engage the gears, and I'm on that move again. What is critical, therefore, is to understand the horse training is not something to treat with disgust because you don't understand what it is. Yeah. You need to get into understanding it is transactional. The model is transactional. A lot of us women, we come into the political space. Yes, I was called Mama Koa, a lot of things, but I made them understand it's not enough to call myself a mother. I am a model. And what am I a model of? A prototype of political advocacy, and one that truly brings from a position not just of being elitist, but having an understanding about my advocacy within my political space and my community of political reference. That reference has to be built up, and you don't stop building. You don't stop curating the experience, keeping the network going, following the primaries. I've had so many people, because what has happened is just thrust me up into that space in the FCT, and there I am as a foremost female chieftain for the APC, women in the Federal Capital Territory. That for me has redefined, as it were, who I am as a visible voice and how I engage through my visible connect the women. The women, not just the women, the youth. I had to restrain a group of youth from going out on a rally saying they want to find out the questions and everything. It's still in discourse. It's still a conversation that is going. And we also have to understand the, how do I put it now, the attitudinal dynamics that go into politics. Is so dynamic. And there's so much happening at the same time within a given timeline. So the pressure is what it is. The pressure build-up is what it is. But if we consciously, deliberately, and with the value and pedigree, you were talking about relevance. Relevance is politics, is what you give to it. It's what you define for you. And understanding that it's not just for you, but it's for everyone you're representing. So I understand. I'm representing different advocates. It's not just about women, it's youth. It's not just about youth, it's youth who are being brought into a new one. I have so many, in fact, I became a one-woman voter drive, voter registration drive, even party registration drive, because they said, well, if Auntie D is there, then we're all going in that direction. And this is important. Politics is about leadership. Those who pervert what politics is for will always corrupt the process. But when we are determined, when I say we, a number of us who by the power of disruption have come into it, or others who over time have collected all of that political experience and are still retaining the integrity of politics for what it is, because I came up with the definition that politics in its purity is the highest form of advocacy for people, for community, and even for creating your own legacy. So you still find there are people there who honor the cause of political advocacy in its purity. But there's an agenda, it's like, we'll let it rip and let everybody end up in court if they choose to. And then they now use the big bat of party supreme. So you're not supposed to do anything outside of honoring the party, which I completely accept. However, I do say that she who dares wins. And in the place of daring what you see to be anti-party in itself, within that conundrum, then be a voice that speaks, but find in your speaking the wisdom with which to speak and with which to adjudicate for yourself, your position and your, not just your argument, but your cause for justice and justifiable representation for you and for any other around you, especially the woman who has put herself into the fray.
Okay.
I find that more women need to do that. We need to be more courageous about not just standing up, but courageous about standing together. And
so I was going to come to that standing together. Can you hear me? So I was going to come to that standing together because we got a comment from Angola. Kenneth, he says, good evening, ladies. He says, apart from culture, another obstacle from my view is that women themselves, they don't support their own. Because when you say standing together, it is, I mean, women supporting women is just on paper. You really don't, I mean, there were women that were delegates at the primaries where both you and Milola, participated in. So how come we did not even get that, support from women? Well, I want to ask this question. Is it not counterproductive, or is it not wrong for all the time when a woman is coming out, she's always, because I heard you talk about seeking support of the women, seeking support of the youth. That's always what we do. Why can't we get the buying of a man? Why are we not able to attract their support, you know, as a woman? Why are we not able to attract the support of a man to say, you know what, I'm a man, but this woman, she can take me to where I'm going?
Well, let me respond.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Who should go?
Yeah, you.
My honor, go ahead and respond.
Thank you, Atidayo. For me, you said something, and from experience, men support women in politics. Trust me, they do. If I've gotten any support from running, it has been from men than from the women.
Did the men vote? It's not about supporting and say, oh, I believe in you. You can do it.
Women,
are they ready to
go
put
out?
Thank you.
Let me tell you something. There is a structure that we are all fighting against, which is the rigid structure that doesn't allow women, that does not believe that women should have a particular position because of mental conditioning. But the people that will naturally root for you more, that would support you more as a woman, is actually the men and not the women. If anything, you would hear your fellow women say things like, why do you want to start from that position? Why can't you just start from this lower one? And you can tell that because they project on you the limitations that are self-imposed. They do not even see themselves being able to drive what you're running for. They do not think that you should do it, or they expect that because they've had to follow a particular path, you're supposed to go through that same thing and not try to create a new paradigm for yourself. Trust me, women are not as relevant as we should be in governance. Personal opinion, because women do not support women.
Okay, so let me hear.
I'll tell you, I have the most amazing support from women. Everywhere I went. In fact, I became like, I just became their champion. I would go into locations, all these, and I'm talking about women at the most basic level and first point of entry, being the wards within the local government area councils. I'm talking about Muslim women. I'm talking about old women, young women. The girls came out, they started saying things in Abaji that we want to see our woman. And I became honestly training, not just for the women. The women all came out. Now, for Abuja, we had a total of 310 delegates. And from the 5 delegates, Keda was supposed to have 2 women out of every 5, which gave me 124 women votes potentially. Now, at the very least, not adding anything, I had half of that number already given. Because of the unique permutations that happened on the day of my primaries, the women that ended up in that hole that day were not even up to 40. if at the most, let me be generous and say 60. They weren't even up to 60. The women were not allowed to come to vote. They were kept out. Women were outside. They came, they tried to get in through the gate. They were not allowed in. They had made it very clear that Adedayo was their candidate, that enough is enough. I'm talking about women who couldn't even speak the English with me, but would speak their hearts to me. When I was done with the primaries, the people who had started coming to meet me up till now are the women. The women leaders, the deputy women leaders from the wards, from within Abuja, Amak, all the women leaders and deputy came to meet me to, it was like to commiserate. And every one of them had a different story to tell. I got the women's support. I got the women's support at the level of the delegates women. Complete. I can say that confidently. In fact, all of them, when they see me now, when they all see me, all of them start singing. There are all kinds of songs. Is it Mommy Dayo? Is it? And look, there's a lot of fakey things that happen, but these women were genuine. Yes, I did have a number of women who felt it was not my place or my time to run, particularly for Senate. It's like the audacity of even reaching for that was just too much of it was just a shock. How could she? Why would she? Let her go and start at the beginning. And the truth of the matter is, I've been involved in political advocacy through the channel of media communication, working the events, over time, without consciously knowing it. That was how I became politically educated. And that audacity therefore grew out of that. Abuja is my city. I've been here 30 years. I understand that I don't need to be an indigent to enjoy indigent favor, and I proved it. Absolutely. Now, a lot of people who are in the political elite, a lot of the stakeholders, a lot of my aunties, big sisters, and so on, yes, they haven't experienced that reality. My political movement, my palpitations, engaging the people. So many of them said that in the political history of Abuja, no politician did the rounds I did. I found that almost unbelievable. But then the facts presented themselves. I was with them 3 times over. I worked it, because for me it was the people, until I met the challenge, where I met the challenge, which had nothing to do with the people, nothing to do. The women were all for me. Where the women had a challenge supporting me was women who were in the system. Okay. Women who have been in the system. Okay. Women who have been challenged by the challenge in the system itself. I don't want to use stronger terms than
okay, so let me just quickly, because I want to piggyback to what Manny had said about horse trading when you talked about transactions, because we have run out of time. So if we were to look at that analogy that you gave about picking the best horse, right, for the race, because you are there to win that money, right? You are doing a transaction because you want to win at the end of the day. So why is it that all the time where there are situations of horse trading that you want to pick a horse, it is always the male candidate that goes to say, you know what, I think this will be the best horse to win this race for us in the political scene. Is there any particular
No, let me rearrange. Okay, let me rearrange that. They don't necessarily go pick the best horse. They pick a sick horse. Do you understand?
Yeah.
This is just the truth. The people who do this are people, like I said, there are 2 kinds of politicians: those who pervert what the political process is all about, and those who will elevate it to what it should really be. Now, the hustle in the political space is when you allow horse thieves to come and do a switch in the name of taking advantage of the horse trading in the market. We have to watch when the switch happens. There is always a switch over time. That switch over time does not happen when you're out campaigning, meeting the people, winning their hearts, all of that. It happens that day of the primaries. Then you are thinking it's about, oh, what you're going to negotiate is not anything to do with the delegate, what something else. There's what you call a political dynamic called the math. Something else is going on in the...
And you are not aware of
circus.
that. Oh, wow.
That is where you don't watch
Absolutely.
out. And that is where, because I had strategists working with me. I had my husband with me. This wasn't something we did for the sake of running, even a beauty contest. Like you and I know, is no longer a simple case of a woman, a pretty girl walking down the catwalk anymore. There's all kinds of activity happening in our beauty pageants these days. And it's all with the same kind of hustle. People getting there, messing up what should be a beauty pageant and turning it into another kind of exchange.
Wow.
That reality is just what we see. But what I say is that we have to get more, let me use the word savvy about understanding how these things happen and know when you are being, because they posture. There's a lot of posture by way of either political intimidation or they try and get you to present yourself as being less than who you ought to present yourself as. And then there's always a place of being careful. So you're not seen as a troublesome woman.
Whoa.
You understand?
Now you're opening a lot of kind of worms. Absolutely. But you know what? We ran out of time.
This is the truth.
Yeah.
So you got to be wise. We've got to be wiser. And I believe that we're working on a wiser strategy for what we have ahead. But for now, let's not jump out of the race.
Absolutely. We're not jumping out of the race. And we're looking forward to hosting you live in studio because we had a bit of struggle today.
Yeah.
But anytime you're in Lagos, please just let us know and we'll have this conversation over and over again because we need to continue to educate more women. But quickly, let's take our messages because we ran out of time.
I have a message from Daniel, who's a regular fan. Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters. So what are you saying? The question is, how relevant are women in the Nigerian political terrain? In a nutshell, in Nigeria, from time immemorial, we have been having men in power and occupying position till now, and they have failed us. If the women are not tried and tested, how can we know that they are relevant? Saying that women are relevant in the political terrain in Nigeria is just an understatement. The men have failed us. Let us try the women, and I believe without any shadow of doubt that the women will go forward. You can never tell. I am not against the man, but I think the women can deliver. Let us support them. Thank you so much,
Thank you, Daniel. Go ahead.
For that vote of confidence.
Okay, greeting ladies. There is hardly any man that does not eat out of the palms of a woman. Those so-called gatekeepers that determine and manipulate the delegates, what has the female aspirants done to gain control from that end?
Absolutely.
Benson.
So that is where we need to come. I mean, when Daya was talking about, setting up political academies for women, we need to start learning because now we need to infiltrate these parties, become stakeholders where we hold them by the jugular. That's how it would work because that's the only way you can actually cleanse the system where we infiltrate and clean it from inside. But I think we've had a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much, Dayo. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Milola. Now, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram. It's at Way Show Africa. You can interact with us further. Most importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed today's quote, again, we love this quote all the time. It says, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. This is what's from Margaret Thatcher. We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My parents, my mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early. And I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be really, really compelling, one. Next thing would be in terms of the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books with just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would stack up with any book published elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think what would be the most important tip for me to them would be just they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of a totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Here are success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly
are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Cross Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
The few queues are back, bringing with them many questions to Lagosians. We seek to understand what's going on this morning on The Breakfast. And the Independent National Electoral Commission may not be ending the voter registration exercise on the 30th of June 2022. We'll look at the interim court order and its implications. Plus, we have analysis of the headlines in today's national dailies. A very good morning to you. We're back with a breakfast on Plus TV Africa, a very bumper package of discussions and analysis on the program this morning. My name is Kofi Bartels. We start off with a trending segment where we get to look at what's being talked about by Nigerians on issues within the country and around the world. Once again, you're welcome. Well, it's been quite interesting looking at the comments and the criticism, or the analysis rather, of the move by now former member of the People's Democratic Party, former Minister of the Niger Delta, Chief Godse Orubebe, who has recently resigned his membership of the People's Democratic Party. I mean, if you remember from the 2015 general elections, there was a mild some would say not so mild drama, at the INEC Collation Center, National Collation Center right there in Abuja, when Godse Orube, who was a minister in the government of the then president, Goodluck Jonathan, refused to leave the stage. He actually literally sat on the floor when it was clear that the results were going the way of the All Progressives Congress, or the man who, staked his reputation and put his face out there in front of the entire world to save the People's Democratic Party, has resigned his membership of the People's Democratic Party. Godse Orube, former minister of the Niger Delta, made this known in the letter addressed to the national chairman of the party, Iocha Ayu, yesterday, Monday. In a copy of his resignation letter that Plus TV Africa has cited, the former minister expressed his dismay over the emergence of a northerner, Atiku Abubakar, as the party's presidential candidate. Now, part of the letter reads, and I quote, "I write to formally inform you of my resignation from the People's Democratic Party." It says this: "I have communicated to the chairman of Burutu Ward 3 in Burutu local government area of Delta State, effective 20th June 2022. It says, consequently, I am by this letter intimating you of my total withdrawal from all activities at the ward, local, state, and national levels of the People's Democratic Party." He went on to say in the letter, "I'm highly honored and privileged to have been part of a political party that successfully transformed a pariah nation to one that commanded respect in the Committee of Nations." It says, when we lost the presidential election in 2015, I'm making reference to that incident I just talked about. "In bewildering circumstances," he said, "to say the least, it was my belief that the party would use the opposition period to re-strategize with the aim of taking back power at the earliest opportunity." He says, quote, "However, the present situation in the party does not inspire confidence that the party is ready to regain power in 2023. He says, against the mood of the nation and in complete disregard for the provisions of the party's constitution, the party threw the zoning of the presidency open, which created a situation that led to the emergence of a northerner as the party's presidential flag bearer, thus making the two topmost positions in the party after your emergence as the national chairman to be occupied by northerners, contrary to section 7.3c of the party's constitution." Now, Orube continued in his letter by saying, "I salute and commend the governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Nyesom Wike, for his efforts and gallantry at the primaries. Posterity will be kind to him when the history of the party is written. There are lots to be said, but out of respect for the party, I leave some stories untold at this time. My belief in the sanctity of Nigeria is unshaken, and I'll continually work for her progress and development, even though it's through another route," is what Orube said. Now, the jury has been out as to the implications of this particular development for the fortunes of the People's Democratic Party as far as the 2023 elections is concerned. And people are asking, will this affect the PDP in a negative way? Is this the feeling of just Orube, or do we have other members of the People's Democratic Party who are from the southern part, indeed other parts of the country? Do you have them feeling this way about the developments in the party? If we go to the statement of Nyesom Wike, the governor of Rivers State, whom Orube cited there, Wike has talked about how southern part of the country has been given a hard deal, or has been hard done by the party. Bearing in mind the rotation, policy of the party, and bearing in mind the agreement, perceived agreement by, in fact, it's not perceived, it was actually agreed because they announced it twice, at least, and they signed a communique. This are the southern governors in the PDP. They agreed to the ceding of the power to the southern part of the country. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So Wike has been calling those governors who supported the emergence of Atiku Abubakar who are from the southern part of the country, traitors, to the south. But, well, this is what we have as a political situation in the country. The principle of zoning is very, very important to make sure there's a balance, in everything. We'll keep watching this, but the implications for the PDP going forward, will we see more departures from the party? Where is Orube going to? I mean, is he joining the All Progressives Congress? Are questions to be asked. Is he retiring from politics altogether? Well, time will tell. Let's move on. It's been some time since we heard from the man who likes to say, when he preaches, talking about a former Nigerian pop musician turned currently pastor. Of course, he's also a politician. He wears at least 3 hats. He's rather. He's also an author, written some fantastic books that you should want to read. If you read those books, your vocabulary will never remain the same. I'm talking about the former presidential candidate of Fresh Party. Do you remember the Fresh Party? People have been talking about, the likes of, men of God who've been in recent times, trying to be president, saying God said they should be president, and so how eloquent they've been sounding and saying they've not do retweeting Chris Ekiti do. It's what they've been saying. But anyway, Reverend Chris Ekiti has been out of the political spotlight for some time, and the founder of the Household of God Church is back in the spotlight and is back with a bang. He hasn't failed to disappoint. All right, he hasn't failed to disappoint in this particular episode, and he has said that the candidates of the leading political parties in the country should step aside for him, is what he's saying. The candidates of the leading political parties in the country should step aside for him to become the president of Nigeria. He's calling the likes of Atiku Abubakar, the likes of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to step aside for him so that he, Reverend Chris Ekiti, can succeed President Buhari as the president of Nigeria. I mean, Chris Ekiti is not unknown to controversy, and this is the latest. I'm sure people have been wondering where the Reverend has been all this while. I mean, he is thrilled in elections past. He's thrilled in elections past. He's been able to, garner attention as the case may be, with his eloquence, with his ideas, with his postulation and controversial statement. And indeed, this one is no different, coming from Reverend Chris Ekiti. So what he's saying is, step aside. It's my turn to rule Nigeria. I'm the one who is meant to be the president of the country. Very, very interesting one indeed. I should take over from President Muhammadu Buhari. The Reverend also urged President Buhari to hand over to him as interim president in 2023. He said that he is the right person to right the wrongs in the country. So basically, President Buhari should call him and say, hey, Reverend, come and be the president. I want to hand over the keys to Aso Rock. I'll cancel the elections, because, I mean, if you look at the list of presidential candidates of the various political parties, Reverend Chris Ekiti's name is not there. All right? Now, he made this call on Sunday while addressing journalists at his church in Oregun Ikeja during his 63rd birthday celebration. It's good to see that he's waxing strong in the ministry. Now, he explained the rationale behind his request, noting that he proposed to become the interim president because that was the solution for the country's challenges. According to him, Nigeria is a blessed nation, and as such, a nation has all human and natural resources. As the country is not moving forward, he said, through his government, everything will be all right. He mentioned Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. He says, I want to implore him to support my government for the betterment of the country. He mentioned Peter Obi. He said that I want to tell Peter Obi that the system that introduced him, that's Peter Obi, cannot take him anywhere because he cannot operate in the system we have now. He also, so this is what he said. Interesting times. I think he stopped short of saying that God had told him he'll be the next president. Because, I mean, we would have asked, okay, so between Tunde Bakare and him, who did God actually, which of the men of God did hear from God? You know, because God cannot tell two people, you know, different things at the same time. You be president, you be president. So who are we hearing from? Who is truly hearing from God? But he didn't say God had told him. He said his government is the right government to fix things in Nigeria. I mean, some have made some fun, you know, of the situation, saying, imagine a Reverend Chris Okotie presidency. We'll have to be listening to his speeches as president with a pen, a paper, and a diary, so we can understand what it is he is saying. All right, let's move on from that. The aviation sector has been experiencing some turmoil in recent times, and the aviation workers, airport staff rather, are on strike over unpaid pay. Now, a video surfaced recently that shows airport staff, you know, in protest at unpaid salaries, seizing a passenger's luggage. All right, this is is quite bizarre. You know, if many have said it's quite bizarre. All right, so this caused some commotion. This was at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, where airport staff took that action by seizing passengers' luggage in protest at unpaid salaries. And this is a bizarre way to protest. I mean, because the passengers are not the ones owing the airport staff. Now, passengers who witnessed the protest said the airport staff complained that they haven't been paid for 6 months, is what they're saying. They haven't been paid for 6 months. In a video shared online, the passengers can be seen standing around the baggage reclaim area at 7 a.m. asking for their luggage, but airport staff asked them to step back. One passenger added that they were told anyone who films the incident will not get their luggage. You know what they say, desperate times call for desperate measures, and that may be what, as you can see on the screen there, that is a sort of a snapshot of what exactly transpired at the airport. And of course, like we said, it's been described as a bizarre incident, a bizarre one, you know, where the airport staff will refuse to give the luggage of passengers to them. Well, like I said, probably the staff are saying to themselves, may have had a meeting, a staff meeting, and said, man, desperate times call for desperate measures. We need to do something quickly to bring attention to a situation and to salvage our lives. I mean, what are they going to do in the country where right now there are fuel queues in Lagos and Abuja? You know, and I'm sure if you're not careful, other major cities as well, they need to get their salaries. Owing staff for 6 months, you know, 2 months, as the case may be, is not what we need to see at this time because of the situation in the country. Are we going to see other staff of other companies also embarking on bizarre actions in a bid to ensure that they are paid? I don't know, but only time will tell. But this is a situation we find ourselves in at the moment. And of course, we'll keep monitoring that as well, bringing more as the story unfolds. Finally, news broke online that the Anambra State government has launched an app, or had launched an application, a mobile application called Inche app, where people can lay complaints about things happening in their neighborhoods, and also for vehicle registration checks, you know, for commercial vehicles. Of course, this is a new development under the administration of Chukwuma Charles Soludo, who is the governor of Anambra State. It's quite interesting to see something that some would describe as a novel development as far as governance in Nigeria is concerned. And indeed, technology these days is an easy way to scale. You know, so if you want to provide, security, you want to provide any other service, I mean, you can do that through technology. So that's quite interesting. Different groups have been commending and commenting on this. In Anambra State, it's received favorably from what we can see the reactions being. It's called the 21st Century Digital Vigilante Volunteering Platform for Decent and Patriotic Citizens. So I think that gives an indication of how this app will work. Groups like the Anambra Youth Volunteer Group, have commended the launch of this, or rather, groups have commended the Anambra Youth Volunteer for coming out with this app to support the security efforts of insecurity in the state. The leader of the group announced the development during the launch of that application. So let's see how it goes in Anambra State, and if indeed this is going to bring the security situation there into question. All right. I need to make a correction. It was the Anambra Youth Volunteer Group that launched the app and called on the governor to take a look at it. They called on the governor to take a look at it and probably partner with them, is what he's saying. So let's see how it goes. They are saying that communities across Anambra State have come under attack in recent times, and we're well aware of this, and it's a way to support the efforts to tackle insecurity in the state. Now, all efforts need to be on board to ensure that insecurity is nipped in the bud in the southeast and across Nigeria. Let's see what happens with this particular mobile application. We'll be back to talk about the FIOQs resurfacing in Lagos State. I mean, those in Abuja have been eating a slice of this pie for some weeks now. The Goshians, it's your turn to eat this pie as well. What is going on? Why are the FIOQs back? And we seek to understand the situation as we speak with our guests. When we come back from this break, we'll begin with a look at the papers and what they have to say. Please stay with us.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Welcome back. Time to look at the front pages of the daily newspapers this morning. Look at the headlines still, of course. With analysis, we have Chris Kende Wando, weekly commentator on the newspaper headlines. He's a chartered mediator and conciliator. Chris Wando, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me this morning.
Yes, I asked you if you're a prophet of doom, but you said a prophet of reality. Because I remember last week when you were here, you predicted that the queues that you were experiencing in Abuja will be popping up in Lagos in a moment from then. And indeed, queues are all around Lagos State.
Yes, I'm a prophet of doing and a prophet of reality. And I told you last week when we were on this program that definitely in the next few days, if not in this town, that definitely Lagos is going to face the same reality that is happening in Abuja. And that seems to have come true now. So here we are.
All right.
Nobody seems to be listening. Nobody seems not to be doing anything about this problem.
All right. We'll leave it at that because we have analysis and discussion on this later in the program. But on the front page of the Nation newspaper, we have these headlines, a big one there. Petrol marketers increase pump price amid scarcity. The rider to that, a motorist queue for product in Lagos, Ekiti, Abuja, others. All right. Federal government to liberalize diesel aviation fuel importation, says Silva. Governor-elect disputes Ekiti vote buying claim. Trend worrisome, says UK envoy, and excited Buhari receives Oyebanji. Interesting. Abdul Salami stable in UK, says presidency. That's the good news. 50 Kaduna train captives sick, dying. Negotiator worried. 50 Kaduna train captives sick, dying. Negotiator worried. It leaves a churn in my tummy to read that headline. Attack on churches. Bandits seek 100 million naira ransom. Lawan contested senatorial primary, says APC chair. Inducement. Oyetola seeks probe of Adeleke. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Voter registration, court restrains INEC, and kidnapped suspect held in Ekiti. Trying times. Over to the leadership with these headlines. A big one there. The kicker says 85 days after Kaduna train attack, 50 remaining hostages threatened by snakes, scorpions, 9 feared dead. Lord have mercy. The riders to that headline, we're working on rescuing them, FG. Victims' families lament neglect, warn against the train resumption. Attackers of Kaduna churches demand 100 million naira ransom. Cut off male victim's ear. District head kidnapped in Plateau. Worst energy crisis looms over global supply shortfall. Queues return as Ipman shuts stations. Abdul Salami hospitalized in London, discharged. Court stops INEC from closing voter registration. Ekiti governor-elect denies involvement in vote buying. These are headlines on the front page of the leadership. The Daily Independent has the following headlines. Private sector growth sluggish as energy cost impacts COIs. Companies, it says diesel price may hit 1,000 naira per litre in days. Manufacturers. Court restrains INEC from ending voter registration in June 30. $13 billion Trans-Sahara gas pipeline opportunity to tap into European markets, minister. Fuel queues spread to Lagos, Abeokuta, Ibadan. INEC disagrees with the Ekiti governor-elect over vote buying. Privatization of power sector a complete failure, NLC, says Nigerians paying heavily for megawatts of darkness. Abdul Salami Abubakar out of London hospital. That's good to hear. Revenue generation falters as debt service increases by 109%. And 17,647 drug offenders, 10 barons arrested, 2,369 jailed in 7 months. And finally, I'll be able to make you through the paper headlines without fainting. These are the ones on the front page of the Punch. Presidential poll, interim Running mates risky, ex-INEC chief warns APC LP. Placeholder party's invention. It has no place in the Constitution, says SANS and INEC. Nobody gave me any condition, but I'll step down for new running mate, Masari. And it says presidential candidates may lose tickets over unqualified deputies, state lawyers. Manufacturers reduce investment by 61%. Borrowing costs hits 22%. Under Buhari, over 3,478 killed, 2,256 abducted in 7 months. This according to reports. We're tired of condolence messages, PFN. Analysts call for state police job creation. Court stops INEC from ending voter registration June 30. Nigerian Airlines, others lose $700 million from 2022. Nigeria rallies support for $13 billion trans-Saharan gas pipeline. Scarcity hits Lagos, Abuja. Fuel sells for 180 naira per litre as NNPC cuts supplies. Bus driver kills and dumps colleague's corpse at Lagos Park. Shooting, police silent as traumatized woman slams burner boy club. Sexual misconduct, OAU, Uni Abuja dismissed 4 professors, 14 others. Terrorists demand 100 million naira ransom for abducted Kaduna worshippers. Osinachi's mother in court seeks justice for daughter, and Federal Commission guards brutalized blind job seekers, several hospitalized. Chris Kenewando, have never had a day like today on national, international television where I'm panting to conclude or finish a look at the headlines. It's been stressful for me reading these headlines. I'll come back to you, Chris. What are your thoughts on the nature of the stories we've seen today and what it says about the state of Nigeria? It's been really stressful, grueling for me to go through all these. I'm really feeling my tummy turn. Over to you, Chris Kenewando.
Well, it may be traumatic for you, Kofi. For me, it's not, because this is where we find ourselves, and this is how things are since we have been permanent out in this country, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. This were predictable. It's not like something just fell on our laps. We've seen this coming over the months. So many Nigerians, journalists, analysts, name them, have predicted this, and we've said that it can only get worse. The only people that seem to not understand what is going on is the government, especially the federal government. And on a daily basis, they continue to tell us that things are better, things are getting better. We are far better than now than we were in 2015. The security is, they're in control of security. And at a point, they even told us that this was just the last kick of a dying horse or camel or whatever they call it. But they refuse to face reality. Now they're already campaigning again for 2023 and asking us to come out for them with all the fallacies and whatever conjecture they can put together to make us vote for them. So someone like me have developed a kind of shock absorber. Nothing surprises me as far as Nigeria is concerned again. I say this most often and often that to me, Nigeria is just like that program, Charlie Boy Show, that used to run on NTA and major TV stations in those days. On Charlie Boy Show, anything can happen. And Nigeria, don't be surprised that they say in my place that in Igbo land, they say Chiboa and no, every other morning is a new story. This is what is happening in Nigeria, in the state of Nigeria. And we don't seem to have a savior. We don't seem to have anybody that can be able to rescue us from the generation that will find themselves. When the Israelites find themselves in serious trouble, cry out to God, and God came to their rescue and led them out of Egypt until they got to Canaan land. But is God even listening to us? The Muslims are praying, the Christians are praying, even the traditional worship paths are doing their things, are praying too. But personally, it just seems as if, my own personal opinion, it's just like God seems to have turned his ears and eyes to us and asked us to be able to solve our problem. People that get things done don't just wait on God. Japanese, they don't wait on God. Chinese don't wait on God. Americans, yes, they believe in God, but they do the right thing. They do the right thing. The Europeans do the right thing. They don't just wait. Even in Rome, Vatican, we are Christian. You say this is the headquarters of Christianity. They tend to get things right. They tend to do things right. They don't wait on God. In Saudi Arabia, one of the developed countries in the world, that is the headquarters of Islam, you can see how things work and how accurate and how beautiful everything seems. I don't know what has been our problem. I've always asked the question, the problem of Nigeria, is it that of leadership or that of followership? Until we're able to answer that question, we will continue to find ourselves where we are. It's rather unfortunate, but that is the reality.
I mean, it's the federal government, and in this case, the president, on whose shoulder a lot of these things rest. Is he? Do you think he's aware of the situation? For instance, talk about fuel scarcity. It started on the streets of Abuja, his backyard. We have an insecurity and the likes. It doesn't seem like there's anything wrong in the country. Look at the pictures coming out of Aso Rock Villa with Oyebanji and the current Ekiti State governor visiting the president. Of course, we have photo ops. When Tinubu went there were photo ops and everybody's smiling. Someone put up something on Twitter the other day saying, sometimes even when he doesn't know why, even when things are so bad in the country, at different times, or there are times of tragedy, when you see pictures coming from the presidential villa, or the politicians are together, they're always smiling and clasping hands. Is it that they're unaware of the situation in the country, or there's something they know that we don't know? Do you think the federal government, the president in particular, Buhari, is aware of what's happening, or is even worried or interested in making things better? Because we're seeing smiles and laughs in the pictures coming from the presidential villa.
It will be, how will I put it? It will be very, very funny to say that the president is not aware of happenings. He is. Let us not deceive ourselves. He's the president of Republic of Nigeria, Federal Republic of Nigeria. He has advisors, he has ministers, he has all sorts of aides who feed him on a daily basis. I've seen several instances where they show the picture of the president, and you see on his table, newspapers lined up, dailies lined up on the table, and that means he reads most of these papers. You also see on the background, you see television popping up. That may also say that times to make our time to watch TV and the rest of them. So president is very much aware. What we are lacking is the capacity of leadership. What we are lacking is a man that has foresight. What we are lacking is somebody that has a complete grip of the situation of things on ground. What we are lacking is a leader with vision. What we are lacking is a leader with the foresight, with the tenacity to be able to handle and sit down and look at the problem as it were, and be able to handle this situation squarely as it should. And this is somebody that Nigerians voted in 2050 with the belief that he would do far better than the person he was replacing. They voted for him as a former general, that he would be able to tackle the issue of insecurity, being a former general. But what is happening? You can see the barrage of attacks, kidnapping, killings, onslaughts on Nigerians, and nobody is saying anything. Nobody. The only thing we get to hear from me, once there's an attack and killing, he issues a press release and asks the security, those in charge of security, to do the right thing, and they don't. Just a few days ago, there was an attack in a Catholic church in Kaduna, where 3 people were killed and so many were taken away. Now 100 million ransom is being asked. There was an attack in a Catholic church in Owo, where several people were killed. They were just buried just this last weekend. And there have been serious attacks all over. We were talking about the one that happened along on the train between Kaduna and Abuja. Now, report coming in is that some of them have been bitten by snakes. We have about 9 already allegedly to have died, and the rest are yet to be rescued. We have so many children across the country, especially in the northern part, that we are kidnapped for years now, and nothing seems to be heard about them. Nobody is even talking about rescuing them. You cannot fly the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Lagos-Shagamu or Benin Expressway, the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. the Maiduguri Expressway, even all over the country without being abducted. The prelate of a church, of Methodist church, was kidnapped a few weeks ago, and he paid a 100 million ransom. What else do I want to say? Do we go to the energy sector, which we have been talking about? There is total collapse of power across the country. The last time we have come down to just about 9 megawatts from about 4,000 or 500 we used to have. It has been consistently breaking down. And in the last few months, I can't remember how many times that the national grid has broken down. The government promised giving us power. The government in 2015 promised injecting 10,000 megawatts into the national grid on a yearly basis. By now it will have been 70,000, but nothing. Then you are talking of, let's talk about the petrol also. Just as when we started, we talked about what happened in Abuja. Last week, I rightly predicted that it's going to get to Lagos and other parts of the country. It's already in Lagos, it's in Ibadan, it's in Akure, and so many parts of the country. And the tragedy of it all is that the President Muhammadu Buhari, is the Minister of Petroleum. He is the Minister of Petroleum. Timothy Silva is just the Minister of State. We have an MD of NNPC. We have tried to unbundle the NNPC to make it more effective, but what are we still seeing? Even right there in the central area, up to Metama, up to Asokoro, where the President's office is, up to Asoro, where the President's office is, you see lineup of cars for days, for weeks now. The President drove from Asoro to where he, for the, what do we call it, June 12th celebration. Don't tell me that he didn't see the queue. I'm sure he must have seen the queue. But I ask you, what has he done about it? They promised to give us new refineries. That was part of the promise they made. Not a single refinery has been built in the past 7 years. Even the ones we had are totally collapsed. They pumped millions of naira into the turnaround maintenance. They are not, that refinery, none is pumping out 1 single liter of, that is the level of corruption within the system. But as we're moving to 2023, I pray that we'll be able to get a leader who can really roll up his sleeves and get this done. We cannot continue this way as a country.
All right, let's move over to the politics. Let's give them some airtime, even though I wouldn't love to give them because they don't deserve it. But this is where we find ourselves. The issue of place.
They don't like discussing politics.
They don't deserve it because you look at the stories that are affecting the ordinary people. We're going to sit down here and talk about placeholder and no placeholder, which has no bearing on whether things are going to change, tomorrow. Because it's just politics. Whilst we have real issues that they should solve, and it's sad, to hear that you in Abuja, you're saying that the president will probably have passed those queues on his way to the Eagle Square. All those Abuja, those politicians who stormed Abuja for the various presidential primaries would have, seen the queues on their way to the various places where they had the primaries. But people are moving on as if there is no issue. You wonder when they finish the elections, what are they coming to rule? And I would have asked you if you see us making it to 2022 without, what I mean. But let's not go there. For reasons best known to you and I. All right, let's look at the concept of placeholders. Now, an ex-INEC chief is warning, according to the Punch newspaper, that the interim running mates is a risky venture. We know that the All Progressives Congress and the Labour Party have all gone down that route. I was arguing on my radio program last week, with a caller who was insisting that I was wrong. Because you look at Section 33 or Clause 33 of the Electoral Act, which is being cited by a lot of people commenting on this. It says nothing about running mates. It talks about those who are elected in primaries, and primaries can be rescheduled if the elected people write a letter saying they're withdrawing from the race. You reschedule the primary. So what happened in the case of Umahi. He did it clean, came out unhurt. What's his name? Godswill Akpabio tried to do it, but Mike Egini said no, that could not work. So what are your thoughts on this? The lawyers who are saying that the Labour Party and APC may be treading on glasses here, making a mistake.
Well, the Commissioner for Voters Education INEC, Festus Okoye, yesterday, was quoted as saying that there is nothing like what do they call it? What's that term they call
placeholder.
Placeholder within the Electoral Act as amended, and that the possibility of some of the political parties replacing their vice presidential candidate is a bit tight. But that is what is it. But I know that within the Electoral Act, there is a room for substitution of candidates. And when you, as you said that it's only for those that are elected. But if those are elected are permitted to be substituted, definitely those that also they select as vice presidential candidates or deputy governors, I believe should fall within that category. That's my personal opinion. I've not taken time to go through that Electoral Act has affected that. But the only thing I want to realize for me personally, even as I posted on my social media handle this morning, that not being able to pick their vice presidential candidate at this time goes to show that the unseriousness of the political parties and their presidential candidate. Because by now you expect that if you are running for the president or as a presidential candidate of your party, you should have known by now who you want to pick as your vice presidential candidate. It's not sky record. It's not something that is impossible. It's something that can be done. So you would have known since it's not today that they just prepared to become presidential candidates of their parties. Probably except for someone like P2P, who's just moved from PDP to Labour Party. But for the presidential candidate of APC and so many others, by now they would have known. Yes, you want to say that there's a lot of consultation have to be done, party chiefs have to be consulted, stakeholders have to be contacted, and there has to be a much robust discussion on this. But for me, as far as I'm concerned, if INEC hasn't given that window of opportunity and has talked to his gun that there's no substitution, once you submit something, they would have come out with their vice presidential candidate as of today. So I think they're taking advantage of the Electoral Act, and probably they still have some time. Somebody said yesterday that they have up to September or is it August to be able to do that. Let's see how it goes. But the cheering news for me is the PDP. PDP seems to be on the ascendancy. Right from when they had their convention to elect their national officers, to how they conducted their primaries, you see that PDP seems to be well prepared for 2023. APC, as usual, is running into stormy waters. Don't forget the problem they had having their convention, whether to replace the interim national chairman and the executive. That took almost months. The wranglings within the party and culminating in the presidential primaries of the party. But good enough they came out of that unscattered. But it seems that there are so many stones that have remained unturned within the APC, and they are trying to do the rightful thing. But it is now left for INEC, not for us to come out to be specific and tell us whether they come out categorically to tell Nigerians whether there is anything like placeholding or no placeholding within the INEC Act, Electoral Act that was passed. If that is not possible, then what is the next option for the political parties to do? But as you said, discussing politics now doesn't make any of us happy because so much is going on. Nigerians are not happy. If these things continue like this, you're going to see a lot of voters apathy come 2023. If there's no voters apathy, then there may be a dramatic change from what we're used to. A situation where people believe that it is just going to be a battle between APC and PDP may be wrong. We might have a third force. You can see people mobilizing now, trying to get their PVC. And what I've always said is not just getting your PVC, get your PVC and make sure you vote in 2023.
All right, let's go over to the Daily Independent because it has a very interesting headline. It pays attention to the ongoing revelations about the revenue generation in the country. If we remember, some time ago, the World Bank, I believe it is, had said that if care is not taken, Nigeria's revenue, though this is International Monetary Fund actually, had warned that the debt servicing might go up 100% of the federal government's revenue by 2026, 100%. already it's gulping what the nation is making from oil and gas or from crude oil sales projected in the budget. And he says by 2026, if care is not taken, it's going to gulp the entire of the nation's revenue. We're not talking about paying back the debt. We're simply talking about debt servicing. This headline from the Daily Independent, it goes thus. Revenue generation falters as debt service increases by 109%. Earlier, the Debt Management Office, Chris Kane, the one who had told us that debt servicing had doubled and hit 896 billion naira in 3 months. That's according to the Debt Management Office. I mean, this I'm sure must be another reason to feel, asphyxiated, if you want to use that word, and suffocated about the situation in the country.
Yes, it is. At the point, that we spent practically, at the point it was up to 90%, about between 80 and 90% that we're using for debt servicing. And as you rightly mentioned, debt servicing is not that we are even paying back the loans that we are owing. This is just to service the debt. It's just like you picking up a loan from a bank. The interest on that loan is what you are paying. You've not paid the sum. You are not paying the sum. So, and Kofi, is it okay you? Some of us are practically gone dead when it comes to issues like this. There are so much legs on our neck that we're no longer breathing. At times they can put leg on your neck and you breathe. This one, we're not even breathing again. We're practically gone dead. Because if you look at the rates at which this federal government, this current government has been borrowing, it was as if this borrowing is going out of existence. And most of us raised the eyebrow. And it was the government who are telling us, the finance minister and whatever, oh, there's nothing wrong in borrowing. We can borrow. We say, as a country, it's not giving instances of so many. But the fact is that even those countries that you mentioned that are borrowing, what are they using that money to do? Because that is supposed to be invested in certain sectors that can yield back money for you to pay back. Kofi, before the Obasanjo government left, he wiped out all the foreign debts of Nigeria, completely zero. So between the time of Goodluck Jonathan and Buhari, that is when you have this pile up of debt, and it seems unabated. That is one. Secondly, we are not exporting enough. Our only channel of exporting is the crude, which is close to accounts for close to about 80 to 90% of our foreign generation. But the lack on that also is that while we're exporting, we are also importing petroleum products. So whatever you think you are getting in selling crude oil, you are also expecting on buying petroleum products. So that depicts your own foreign exchange. It also depicts your foreign reserve. If we have done the needful by now and we have enough capacity to refine our products, then there will be no need for us to spend so much money in importing petroleum products. We are even subsidizing those products. So it is a big, big problem. And I've continued to ask, do we really have an economic team? In those days, we used to have very strong economic team under the Obasanjo regime, where you have Okonjo-Iweala, you have Obi Ezekwesili, even El Rufai was also part of that distance. You have those at the DMO, a solid economic team, think tank that thinks out of the box, and that was what we were able to do. So we tell you, oh no, the problem is that the crude oil was so amount during that period, during the Jonathan period, during the Obasanjo period. You cannot compare that with now. Hello, Kofi. Since the commencement of the war in Ukraine, which has been going for months, the prices of crude have risen across board. It has skyrocketed. We are making so much in the export of crude oil. Nobody is talking about that. Nobody is saying anything about that. All they will tell you, oh, it was also amount during Goodluck Jonathan. You cannot compare it to what we're having now. It's also amount. What nobody is telling us how much we have been making in the past few months since the war in Ukraine. That is it. And he who goes are borrowing, goes are sorrowing. Kofi, if you borrow from me and you cannot Let me just give you a classical example. You come and borrow like this beautiful suit you are wearing now. You come and borrow it from me. You come and take from me. And you take it to a party. And I meet you at the party. And you are dancing anyhow with this cloth. I will warn you to feel, please, don't let this thing tear. Now the only cloth I get, don't let this cloth tear. You will dance with caution. That is the problem, because we are borrowing so much, and that is why IMF and the World Bank is detecting our economic, what do you call it now, our economic policies, and we cannot go away from what. If we do, China will not give us money, US will not give us money, World Bank will not give us money, IMF will not give us money. But this country is a country that is so rich and so blessed. We have so much mineral resources that we can exploit properly and be able to come out with alternative to fuel. And this country, what we lack is we lack leadership. We lack visionary leaders who can be able to take out of the box and get us out of the roots.
All right. We have, the Ekiti governor-elect denying the allegation, still staying with the Daily Independent, denying the allegation of vote buying. They actually are disagreeing with INEC over this issue of vote buying. We've had accusations coming from the PDP in Ekiti State, coming from the SDP in Ekiti State, and also the APC, who won the election, also accusing as well and defending and denying. Let's look at the headline on the front page of the Daily Independent very quickly, because we have just 2 minutes. INEC disagrees with Ekiti governor-elect over vote buying. It says the Independent National Electoral Commission on Monday disagreed with Biodun Oyebanji, governor-elect in last Saturday's election, that there was vote buying during the polls. However, INEC said it will continue to work with relevant agencies in the country towards ensuring that vote buying and inducement to voters during the elections are reduced to the barest minimum. So they are disagreeing with the governor-elect that there was a vote buying as far as that election was concerned. I mean, I'm sure you saw a few clips, or at least one of the videos on social media, Chris Kendo. What are your thoughts on this? Because this may be a precursor to what will happen in the general elections next year.
The governor-elect is just being economical with truth. He knows the right. He knows that let me not use the word that he's lying, so that not to seem a kind of disrespect. But the fact is there. Just as you mentioned, we saw on social media people showing how much they collected. But that didn't start from Ekiti. Started from the convention of the various political parties. So what's happening now? Where dollars, thousands of dollars were being exchanged for votes. The people now at the grassroots are also trying to say, oh, it is our turn. Give us our own share of the money too. Now, the system, the electoral system in Nigeria has been so politicized. Kofi, I'll tell you for free that what we are just seeing now is just a child play of what is going to play out in 2023. It's only those that have the deep pocket that will decide that will win the election. The most qualified set of people will not be able to win, because this is becoming a Naira-based and dollar-based election for Nigeria. They're finishing Ekiti. The next move is going to be in Osun, and the same thing will play out. Then before we go into the general election in 2023. But at times, because you ask yourself, is it a function of poverty, or just that people don't know what they want to do? I would say it's a combination of two. Poverty. People cannot even fend for themselves. Some people are going to bed without food. So a hungry man is an angry man. A hungry man that has not been able to feed his family. If he sees somebody that will give him 5,000 naira just for him to just give him a vote, he will do it. That is the level of poverty in the country. Until we eradicate poverty, then this is how we're going to be. We saw the movement of EFCC here and there trying to arrest people. They can, how many people would they arrest? The issue is that a lot of enlightenment has to be done, and the people have to be told that by selling your vote for 5,000 naira, you have sold your conscience, you have sold your family, you have sold your future generation, and you remain in this perpetual state where you are, because you not give room to elect those that can be able to improve your life. After 5,000, how much will 5,000 last? How many days will they last? Probably 24 hours. At the end of it, and what happens? But you have sold your future. So the governor-elect knows the truth, and saying that there was no vote buying. Even a minister in this government was quoted as saying that it was not only the ruling party that bought votes or whatever at the election in Ekiti, that he went across board. And I tend to believe him. But that is how we roll. Nigeria, we held him.
Interesting. At least we made it through this episode of Off the Press. Chris Kane.
It's been a very hectic. This is one of the most hectic show I've had in months. And it's just so sad that this is why it's not a smiling matter, it's not a laughing matter. Nigerians, we are suffering. We are in. Kofi, you need to go to the airport and see the number of Nigerians that are driving and moving out of this country on a daily basis now. People are ready to move as far as Afghanistan, as bad as the situation is. Some people are even ready to go to Ukraine, where you're having war. Some Nigerians are ready to go and risk their lives there. And it doesn't concern our leaders. They don't care. Our life does not matter. QED.
Chris Kane, I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. And don't be despair. All will be well. Look, if you don't worry, all will be well. They cannot spend their own generation and spend ours too. God will intervene on our behalf. Have a wonderful day.
You too, you too. It is well, like we say in this part of the world. Even if the sky is falling on your head, it is well. We'll take a break now, look at what happened today, the 21st of June, in history. When we come back, we drive straight into our first major conversation. Please stay with us.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
We're back with conversations right here on Plus TV Africa. My guest is already standing by, but let's quickly inform you that long queues for premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, have resurfaced in filling stations across Lagos State today, yesterday, Monday rather. This is coming 2 weeks after long queues were first spotted in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and neighboring Nasarawa states and Niger states, amongst others. It was earlier reported that the President, Muhammad Buhari, had approved the increase of the freight rate being paid to transporters of petroleum products in a bid to clear the persistent fuel queues by motorists in parts of the country. This is an increase of the freight costs. Oil marketers have repeatedly complained about the lingering fuel queues in Abuja, the center of the nation, the capital of Nigeria, and also neighboring states as Niger State and Nasarawa State, among others. This, they say, is due to the inability of the petroleum product transporters to purchase the diesel required to run their trucks. This is a quite bizarre situation. Now, to help us analyze this, let's welcome Chief Chinedu Ukadike, who is a National Public Relations Officer of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. Thank you very much for your time, Chief Ukadike.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to Nigeria.
All right. What exactly is going on?
Well, like you just rightly pointed out, there are a few good scarcity in Abuja, predominantly last 2 weeks, and it went down a little bit last week, and it's also resurfacing this week. Now, the issue of Lagos is worrisome because, yeah, it's very, very worrisome because in Lagos is where we normally pick our product because it's along the coastal area. I also want to let you know that Nigeria is heavily dependent on the importing of petroleum products. And once that petroleum product is being imported, the NNPC, who is the sole importer of petroleum products, normally use coastal areas, coastal depots, to be able to dispatch this product. And those coastal areas are Lagos, Calabar, Port Harcourt, or especially Ghana, specifically. So you will find out that the NNPC, 21 depots that are built across the country that are supposed to be supplying petroleum products around the nooks and crannies of this country has not been working for the past 1 year because of issue of pipeline vandalization and insufficient flow and loss of products. So the NNPC have devised a means of using the BDO, private depot owners, who situated their tank farms in coastal areas to be able to collect petroleum products. So it is very, very pertinent that marketers will move from a dry area to the wet area, which is the PDOs that are located along the coastal area. So it is very, very worrisome. And the cost of diesel, secondly, the cost of diesel. Diesel is being sold at a rate of 700 to 716 naira to 800 naira now in the private depots. It's only NNPC. It's only NNPC that is the sole distributor of diesel now in Nigeria and some importers. So marketers are not opportune to be able to take this petroleum product called diesel from PPMC outlet, which is most of the 51 depots we have in Nigeria. So diesel, the cost of diesel is close to 5 million naira to 40 million naira now. And it is very, very difficult for marketers to travel from a dry area to the wet area in the high cost of diesel. Because to move petroleum with one tanker from Kano to Lagos will cost you close to 400,000 in terms of dispatch. And if you reduce this cost, you will find out that a man that is selling petroleum products, a marketer that sells petroleum products in Kano, supposed to be selling his petroleum products at the cost of 180 to 190 naira. Because we normally buy this petroleum product at 185, 158, and 159. So if you add the cost of transport, which is almost 30 to 20 naira, it's giving you around 180 something naira. So I don't know how we are being expected to sell petroleum products at 165, which is government mandatory. So these are the logistics problem and the technical problem that has been disturbing the flow of information, people of petroleum products in the downstream sector. We, the independent marketers, we are given Gene Garbage Act. We are here to do our business. We are committed in serving the people. Once there is petroleum products, I want to tell you definitely we will sell. We are also profit-oriented, in as much government is regulating our industry. But we are very, very aware that with the commodity we are selling has a reflective this thing in the economy. So that is why we try as much as possible, even in this kind of stringent conditions, to continue to supply petroleum products when they are available.
All right, President Muhammadu Buhari had earlier approved the increase in the freight cost in a bid to help assuage the situation of the petroleum transporters, those who have to move the products, like you said, from the coastal areas to the retail outlets, you want to call it that. So what do you think this will do? Is this a positive step, and do you expect that this will have an impact on the situation in a matter of days, weeks, or months? This is talking about the increase in the freight rate being paid to transporters of these petroleum products, which was recently approved by President Buhari.
That is a mortuary approach. Our problem in Nigeria is not increase, it's to find the root cause of this problem or the immediate cause of this problem. Our refineries are not working. The president would have done is to ensure that our refineries are working. And once the refineries are working, local context will drive in, and the pipelines will be restored. The issue of a marketer traveling from Kano will not be there any longer, because the pipeline which the federal government has lied already can be able to take care of it seriously. So I also believe that what the president would have done is to declare a state of emergency in our refineries and ensure that those refineries work, the pipeline work. This will put out a lot of vehicles on the road. It will also put out all this logistic problem we are facing. It will also reduce this issue of increase of the flight rate, because if the refineries are working, I wonder how we will buy petroleum products diesel at the cost of 800 naira, 850 naira. So that is not the problem, because you keep on increasing. When this the diesel is increasing, and as far as the crude oil is increasing the international market, as far as we are getting the dollar is high, all these things are factors that state the cost of product, the landing cost of product in Nigeria. And as the landing cost of the crude oil cost is going high, the vapor taxes also becomes high, the taxes becomes high. And the marketers who are bringing in this product, like we said, will also increase their prices. Our marketers like me, the business outlets like us, we don't have any option that remain in business to buy at their pace. If product is 160 naira, you will not expect an independent marketer to sell 160. President Buhari, yes, he has done well, although his approval has not been implemented where the marketers have not felt the approval. And it has not also been communicated to us. We have heard on the press meeting that yes, he has approved. But we want action. The action is, how do we stop this incessant increment? How do we stop this issue of diesel cost? It's to encourage modular refinery. It's to encourage our local refinery and be able to put them in stream to produce our crude oil here in Nigeria, even for export, not only for local consumption. So I want to appeal that the president has done to release marketers of this substance. I will thank him. But I want also to reassure him that this will not stop this instant cycle. The earlier the better, where the president will ensure that the 4 refineries we have in Nigeria are working. Our crude oil, which will export to other countries to refine for us and bring back to us as a finished product at their cost, while all our dollars is taking petroleum products that we are also manufacturing the crude oil. We are producing our Nigerian oil producing company. We must allow our refineries to. Those people in the refineries are taking salary. Those managers in the refineries are responsible to the citizens. This is part of our economic package. We must ensure that the refinery is put to work. The pipelines are working. Because if you look at the way the pipeline is being designed, you will find out from system 2A, which is Port Harcourt Depot and Insecurity, there are pipelines that is from here even up to the pump station in Yola. It means that trucks does not need to travel from Yola to take petrol product in Port Harcourt. Because if the pipelines are good, products will be pumped from Port Harcourt refinery depot to Aba depot, from Aba depot to Port Harcourt depot.
Okay.
From Port Harcourt depot, from Aba depot to Enugu depot.
Okay, Chief Ukadike, are you there?
From Enugu depot to Makodi, from Makodi to Yola.
All right, Chief, are you there? Okay, we seem to be having a bit of an interruption. I think the network has played a fast one on Chief Ukadike. We'll try and see if we can get him back. We know that the independent petroleum marketers had a press conference at Ipman House in Ejigbo, Lagos, yesterday, where they explained what they call their predicament with the current price of PMS at the private depot. I was hoping to ask Chief to try and link, because he's talking about the price of diesel, for the benefit of the public, try and link both that view or that point he made, and then the price of PMS at the private depot. Is that what has been affected by the high cost of diesel, which is affecting the trucks, or the trucks are the ones that have to now lift the product for the private depots to the retailing outlets? Then, so what's the relationship? Chief, do we have you back? All right. Anyway, so what the independent petroleum marketers said in that press conference is that they're explaining why that with the current price of PMS, that they can't, there's no way they can sell less than 180 naira per liter, is what they said. So they're advising their members to sell at a sustainable price within what they called, because I have a statement from the Ipman secretary. It says Ipman secretary, Ipman LSD rather, Secretary Ipman LSD Akim Balogun is saying that members are advised to sell at a sustainable price within their environment, just to make sure that they should make sure the price is on their pump. That is what they are saying. So it's a kind of like a confusing situation, a difficult situation at that. If it's 180 naira, that's the problem. I don't know. Maybe Nigerians will be willing to have to pay that just so they can continue life as normal. Chief Ukadike, I was going to ask you, sir. You've talked about the high cost of diesel. I was going to ask you to also address the issue of the cost of PMS, the price of PMS at the private depots. You've talked about the depots and, of course, the fact that you're lifting the products from the coastal areas as well. So can you draw a relationship between the cost of diesel and the cost of the PMS at the local depots, how it's affecting what we're seeing right now?
Okay, the plants are not controlled, although they are being supervised, but there are people who establish to be able to meeting and make possibly where the government can to a certain extent. The independent market because at the end of the
All right, the connection is pretty poor. We're sorry about that. The audio connection. We will have to bring the conversation to an end at this point. But we will have another time to talk about this because it's an unfolding story. Of course, our guest, who is the National Public Relations Officer of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, has said that the directive by the president for the freight rate paid to transporters to be increased is not been implemented. That he says it's a mortuary approach, though he feels it would have some impact, but he also would like to see long-standing and wide-ranging reforms. For instance, Nigeria refining its own crude to have diesel and PMS as petrol refined and produced in the country. He says that's a more long-term approach. But anyway, let's hope that the president's directive, which came some days ago, will be swiftly and quickly implemented. I don't know what they're waiting for, because Nigerians do not have the time to wait any longer. We'll be back with more conversations looking at the current situation of INEC and what they have to do after that interim court order issued yesterday. Stay with us.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I
Welcome back. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Quite interesting conversation still ahead. We have a guest standing by. Indeed, Justice Mobalaji Olajuwon of the Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday stopped the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from ending the voter registration on 30th June 2022. Well, that may be a premature verdict, as far as reports go. But the judge, what the judge granted, I think it's better to say, is an interim injunction. This is the best way to put it. An interim injunction following the hearing of an argument on motion ex parte by the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. Now, SERAP, along with 185 concerned Nigerians, had earlier this month filed a suit. It's a lawsuit against INEC asking the court to declare unconstitutional, illegal, and incompatible with international standards the failure of the electoral body to extend the deadline for voter registration to allow eligible Nigerians exercise their rights. Now, in the suit, SERAP had asked the court for an order restraining INEC and its agents, as well as previous assigns or any other persons claiming through it from discontinuing the continuous voters registration exercise from 30th June 2022 or any other date pending the determination of the notice on motion, the motion on notice. Now, the suit is adjourned to 29th June because, of course, it's going to be heard before the court. This is for hearing of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. All right, so we'll see how that goes if indeed it will be granted on the 29th of June. That's just one day to the expiration of the continuous voter registration. We have joining us public affairs analyst Mohammed Abdullahi. Mohammed, good morning to you. It's nice to see you again this week.
Well, good morning. Nice for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Do you understand INEC's reasons for why they cannot, continue the voter registration exercise beyond the 30th of June, 2022?
Have INEC said so? I don't think so. From what I have read so far, the commissioner said they will abide by every court order.
No, I'm talking about before this interim order. Of course, they had a deadline for 30th June. They said they were going to stick to it. So do you understand the reasons they gave for or why INEC had to give that 30th of June as their deadline?
Yes, I think some of the reason might be definitely preparations for the general elections. We know our system here will take a whole lot of time, and for the fact that, apologies, we are still a whole lot more around analog. I mean, we use so many manual methods. By now, I expect that in 2023, we will have employed more technology, even electronic voting in our voting system, which was voted down massively by those in power, particularly the NAS members. So I think INEC needed a whole lot of time. You understand that they needed time to print the ballot papers, to make all the necessary logistics. And the 2023 elections is just like 8 months or so from happening. So I understand their plight. I understand what they are trying to do. But again, sorry if I may jump your question to what happened yesterday. It's important that we also give many other Nigerians the opportunity to register and vote. If INEC could shift some of their timelines in accommodating party primaries and what I would call a bit of primary shenanigans, political party shenanigans, then it's also important that they are able to work all day and night to ensure that many more Nigerians are given the opportunity to vote, to pick up their PVCs, to register and pick up their PVCs, and then vote. Because we've been having declining, like a kind of voter apathy since 2015. In fact, in 2019, we had less than 36% of the total registered voters coming out to vote, about just 28 million from 84 million. That is common. That doesn't even reflect a true presidential election, where you have 84 million registered voters and you have 28 million coming out to vote. In fact, just recently, again, the elections that happened in Ekiti 3 days ago or so, you have about 36% of the total registered voters coming out to vote against the 44% in 2018. So these are not good statistics for electioneering. So I feel even aside the fact that we needed to have more people register and pick up their PVCs to vote, we need a lot more of education to do for people to come out to vote, because the voter apathy is really sickening in Nigeria.
All right, so you've talked about voter apathy, and of course, indeed, we've been having increasing lower percentages of registered voters participating in elections. But INEC needs time to prepare for the 2023 general elections, and they had given ample time for Nigerians to be part of the continuous voter registration exercise, which is the first of its kind in the history of the country, you know, having voters register on a continuous basis. Don't you think that we should cut the commission some slack? Say, hey, Nigerians have had enough time, a lot of time to go register to vote, and INEC needs time to prepare for the election.
Yes, I think it's important. It's just two ways, like I mentioned earlier. Both the preparation for INEC is very important, because we don't want to lose anything, or we don't want to have elections that are marred by skirmishes and irregularities. But having said that as well, it's also important that we also look at the side of having more people coming out to vote. But like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't speak well of our country that we have 84 million registered voters, and we have just about 28 million coming out. In fact, it doesn't reflect what, because if you have just 28 million from 84 million, it doesn't reflect the popular decision of people. Yeah, so it's from both ways. It's important that INEC has time to prepare. It's also important that we educate more. I think that's another thing. It's not just about having more people register. I think what is even very paramount that INEC should do, and political parties should do, civic organizations should do and hammer on, is that people should be galvanized. People should be, educated on the importance of voting. It is our civic right, and people should know that whether they vote or not, in fact, if they don't vote, they don't have chance in electing who govern them. So it is important that, irrespective of the fact that we spoke about voters registration, the most important thing is canvassing people to come out to vote on the day of election. It's very important.
All right. This is what you've said, which is very important. And I mean, it's true that in the last general elections, we had more than 55 million people who sat at home and didn't come out to vote. I mean, of course, some of them may have passed on, unfortunately, or maybe some issues, but 55 million and more who had voters registration, a permanent voter card or a voter card, didn't go out to vote. So are you therefore saying that the problem is not in registration, but actually in people stepping out of their homes to vote?
Yes, in fact, that is for us our number one problem. If going by the registration in 2019, we have about 84 million registered voters, 84 million. Then we have, that is almost, that's almost 50 to 45, at least 45% of our total population, which is good. You understand? But it's a big problem when you have less than 35% of that registered number, coming out to vote on the days of election. It's a very big problem. And this is where, like I mentioned earlier, INEC should do more by sensitizing the public via various media platforms. Civic society should do more. It's good the work Serap is doing by ensuring that, or taking INEC to court to extend voter registration timeline. But it's also good that we have other civic societies, organizations, other lobbyists coming to canvass people to come out to vote. In fact, I see some of the things we've had in the news earlier this month, where we have some churches even turning back their congregations, that they must come in only when they have their PVCs. We also have, I've read about the hospital that doesn't charge consultation fee, but when you come with your PVC, you have a free consultation before other medical examinations and administration. So it is important that we galvanize people not only to register but come out to vote, because it's very important. It's actually of no use when you are registered, you have your PVC, and you don't come out to exercise your franchise on the day of election.
All right, let's look at what the Independent National Electoral Commission is saying through its National Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye. They're saying that extending the continuous voter registration exercise may result in a significant percentage of invalid registrants. This is in reaction to the court's interim injunction. Of course, they're saying that, this. Now, I want you to quote Festus Okoye. He says, quote, "We recognize it as a constitutional and legal right of people to register." So INEC is not contesting that people have a right to register. We also recognize the fact that it will add value to our electoral process if we get as many Nigerians as possible to register. I think they've already said in recent time that they want as many people as possible to get registered. But they're saying that, quote, he said, quote, "We cannot do the CVR ad infinitum and be registering people who have registered before. I think Nigerians should exercise patience and become." He says at the end of the day, the commission will do all it takes to improve registration exercise. He says that, the CVR exercise, ending it closer to the general elections, has heavy implications on the preparation of the commission for the elections. He says, quote, "The implication is that we will all not be in a position to display the voter register for claims and objections. The second implication is that we will not have an opportunity to clean up the voter registration, the voter register, to remove double registrants," he said. So these are some of the issues that people who are not in INEC may not understand. Your thoughts on this?
Yes, we mentioned that in your first question about timeline. Like we mentioned, INEC has a lot to do. And no thanks to the fact that most of what still characterize our election is still very manual. We have a lot to do in cleaning the register, making sure that there are no double registration, or in fact, triple registrations. And again, we as Nigerians, this portal for registration has been on for about 2 months or more, or even more. You understand that you can continuously register and update your, your information on the INEC portal. How have we as an electorate and as Nigerians taken that opportunity? We always wait for last minute, to do everything. And then this doesn't also help our cause as a nation. If I may digress a little, in 2015, there were about, just to buttress what the INEC commissioner mentioned, in 2015, there were about 840-something thousand voided votes, rejected votes, 840-something thousand. And jumped to 2019, the number is about 1.2 million, or at least 1.3 million. That is not acceptable, because definitely, probably it's as a result of our haziness. We don't even understand properly the electioneering process and so on. How 1.3 million will count to voided votes. That's not acceptable at all. So I think it's important that we understand the system that we are in. We also give INEC time so that we do not record a whole lot of problems when it's time for the general elections.
All right. The Nigerians also have to, take a bit of the blame for the situation we find ourselves in, bearing in mind the fact that, we usually would see people go out to participate in activities. Even if we look at the national identity number, registration, people went out last minute. People had to be blocked, lines had to be blocked for people to take notice. So we need to have a change of our culture and the way we do things in this part of the world.
Definitely. That's what I mentioned. We need to have a change of culture. We need to understand our system that we are still very much developing. And it doesn't augur well for us to always leave things to the very last minute before we take action. it is important that as people, we make things easier for our authorities as well. We make things easy for our agencies and so on. INEC has a lot to do, and you should understand that they are short-staffed. You recall and you understand that most of they use a whole lot of ad hoc staff when it comes to general election period. So there is a lot that we need to do to make sure that the process is easier for the agencies and our country at large.
Just a quick one. Festus Okoye said that they found 46% of those who registered. They did cleaned up the voter register for those who registered between 28th June 2021 and 14th June 2022. Just 1 year, 2021, 2022, June to June. And they found out that 46% of those who registered were invalid registrants, as many of them had registered already and came back to register.
So is that the problem that we talk about? And this shows that the more of the blame even is with Nigerians. Why go on to register again when you have registered earlier? But again, the system. Why can't the system pick up immediately when you are registering for the second or third time? If we have innovative systems, like I keep mentioning, we use a whole lot of analog, not a whole lot of manual in this jet age. Because if, for instance, even if it's the banks, you go in and you try to input a certain information, the system can pick up that, oh, you have this information here already. But we need to update our system. We need to make sure it conforms to latest technology that will be able to see and curb these problems immediately it's occurring. Not that INEC had to go through another back end, spend another time, another resource, and so on in order to see these kind of issues.
All right. Mohammed Abdullahi, you're saying we need to have improved technology to make sure we solve these problems. I want to thank you very much for your time. It's been an interesting conversation with you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll keep monitoring the activities. Of course, INEC has set its part through its National Commission on Voter Education, Festus Okoye, but it seems most Nigerians just want to have more time, just like the House of Reps said last week, to register to vote. My name is Kofi Bartels. From all of us here at Plus TV Africa, thanks for watching. You can follow us on all our social media platforms at Plus TV Africa. On YouTube, search for Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. See you tomorrow. Good morning.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Good morning, I'm Tolu Jeremy and this is the news brief. Nigerians are now paying more for petrol despite the official price still fixed at 162 naira 50 kobo and 165 naira per litre. Independent marketers who started implementing a new price regime of between 170 naira to 190 naira at the weekend insisted yesterday that it would be difficult for them to sell at the official pump price. Besides, scarcity of the product surfaced in Lagos, Akure, Ekiti, Abeokuta, Jos, among other towns in the southwest. The situation in Abuja worsened at the weekend with long queues at the filling stations where petrol is sold. In Lagos yesterday, many independent stations were shut. The few that were dispensing recorded, again, long queues. The federal government says it disbursed 86 billion naira for the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund as at June. The Secretary of the Oversight Committee of the Federal Ministry of Health, Dr. Chris Isoko, made it known yesterday in Abuja at the Ministerial Media Conference on the developments in the health sector. According to him, about 56 billion naira has so far been disbursed to the states out of the amount stated. He said that the fund, inaugurated in 2019, was meant to strengthen public health facilities. The Women's Situation Room on the just concluded governorship election in Ekiti State has released its preliminary findings on the election, affirming that there was massive vote buying during the poll. The convener of the Women's Situation Room Nigeria, Professor Joy Onyeso, assessed the situation. Vote buying was the order of the day in all the LGAs and polling units as reported by our observers, and in few cases leading to physical violence which were resolved by the security agencies. The report, however, indicated that good participation of women in the electoral process was observed, saying that inasmuch as specific reports of violence against women were not reported, they observed in few polling units some forms of violence. The governor-elect, meanwhile, of Ekiti State, Biodun Oyebanji, has faulted the allegations of vote buying against the APC in the just concluded governorship election in the state. He stressed that neither he nor the ruling party was involved in vote buying as alleged, saying that they canvassed for votes from the electorate which led to their victory at the poll. Oyebanji, while briefing State House correspondents shortly after he met with President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa in Abuja, insisted that he did not witness any vote buying in the polling units where he voted, and that he won the poll based on his previous performance as a secretary to the state government in Ekiti. In the meantime, INEC has ruled out the concept of placeholder or dummy vice presidential candidate as done by political parties, adding that it has no place in the Constitution of Nigeria. After the completion of presidential primaries, INEC had set June 17 as a deadline for the nomination of vice presidential candidates, but some political parties continued to search for the rightful VP candidate, and to beat the deadline set by INEC for submission of names, some candidates, including Bola Tinubu of APC and Peter Obi of Labour Party, submitted names of vice presidential candidates whom they described as quote-unquote placeholders or dummies. INEC Commissioner for Voters Education and Information, Barrister Festus Okoye, ruled out the concept of placeholder for vice presidential candidates, saying it has no place in the constitution of INEC. And as the general elections draw closer, stakeholders in Ibadan have advocated the inclusion of psychometric analysis for politicians, which they envisage would bridge the leadership deficit. Chairman of the Governing Council, Psychometrics Center, Abimbola Davis, stated this during a symposium organized for journalists. He said, judging by the myriad of problems confronting us as a nation, it has become most expedient to properly scrutinize those individuals seeking public office.
Introducing what we call campus psychometric clubs in all tertiary institutions in the country, so that it can create awareness for them. But still, that is still at a GNS level. Even if you train them, it's still at GNS. Students are saying, we would like to take this as a course. So it means you just have to take it to the secondary school level, so they can take their Becker examination to be part of it. WAEC was part of it, WASC, whatever, at the final, they can take it also. Then, above all, it will shape their mind.
In Nigeria, psychometrics can help us in diverse ways. In fact, at every point in time in the nation, psychometrics will be able to correct a lot of things. Let's start from the leadership aspect of it. So many people are in leadership now just because of the fame, just because of what they stand to gain, not necessarily because they are born with that traits of a leader or they are trained as a leader. And so with the utilization of psychometrics, of course, we know that you can identify who a true leader is and be able to channel that course towards that path. And so I know that if we are able to use psychometrics, we will not have these leadership problems that we're having, because we will know the leaders that genuinely have the interests of Nigeria as a nation at heart. And so we'll be able to follow them as we go.
We're in a community or a country where psychometrics is being taught from the grassroots. You realize that people know what they are good for. I would not like to call names politically, but there are people who don't realize that this is not what they are called for. Sometimes they are pushed into doing these things. If it's not for friends, it is for family. If it's not for family, it's for peers and all. But psychometrics already teaches you, it gives you an in-depth knowledge of how best you can do things. Leadership, for instance. In psychometrics, you know how well you can represent things or represent yourself. You can actually tell that, okay, I'm a leader, even by birth.
We're now in Imo State, and INEC has stated that the Commission is working round the clock to ensure that residents in the state are not disenfranchised in the forthcoming general elections. The Commission gave the assurance following the call to extend the CVR closing date in order to register more electorate. Our correspondent who monitored the exercise now reports.
This is the mood of Owerri residents as they came out in their numbers, scampering to register for their voters' cards. A visit to some of the INEC registration centers in Owerri shows that many electorates want to obtain their permanent voters' cards, but were disappointed due to the lack of adequate manpower by INEC.
It's very slow, like I'm disappointed. They should get more machine for us. Look at crowd everywhere. It's not impressing at all. I've been here since. I haven't even done my work. Talk more of people that have been here since morning.
As a citizen, is to say, INEC, you're doing a good job already, and given the short time, you need more hands to get the job done. Very recently, people released a number of machines, which we saw, we read up on the internet when about 200 and something machines were deployed. And I still want to ask, since by your constitution you still have enough time for the registration, I think from the last information you have 90 days to the polling. That's when registration should stop. So in that manner, we have a lot of people who want to register, people are interested. We have enlightened and informed citizens who want to be part of the election process. So kindly do well to increase the number of the units. They are not sufficient. That's a fact to have on ground.
Because of what PDP and APC did to Ndibo, what you are seeing today, the upsurge in number of people coming to register for their PVC, Ndibo now have come to realize that PDP and APC have no place for them in the Nigerian polity. So that is why now people have decided to say, let us take our destiny in our, into our own hands and take the bull by the horn. Let us come and register.
But the electoral body says the commission would leave no stone unturned in ensuring that majority of Imo residents, if not everyone, gets registered.
We are battling it. The surge is there. We've tried to, if you look around, we have 10 centers here. So we've tried to decongest the place by setting up other centers within the metropolis, and it's going on well.
We have provided free transport for every son, every citizen of Njaba who is willing to come to get registered. But there is also another factor, that of insecurity. A lot of people are afraid because some of our brothers maintain that there will not be any elections for one reason or the other.
As a result of the state of insecurity in the state, INEC has already closed down some centers in the rural areas of the state, asking the dwellers to come over to Owerri for their registration.
In commemoration of the World Sickle Cell Anemia and Blood Donation Day, the Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital in Kano is enlightening the general public on steps to take to prevent the prevalence of sickle cell in the state and also advocate for more donation of blood. The hospital identifies active participation as a key factor in fostering intensified blood donation for people in need, as well as heightened awareness to lessen the burden of sickle cell disease in Kano State and the country at large.
This time around, take the campaign to beyond the hospital premises to other stakeholders to know the significance of donating blood for the needy ones should the need arise. And sickle cell disease, we all know it is a very important disease condition in our environment. So we need to take the campaign outside and let people know how the disease is acquired, how it's because it's an inherited disease. So people need to know how who are likely to give birth to a sickle cell patient, and I think this event will give us the opportunity to tell the public what sickle cell is all about and what can be done to prevent coming up with the condition.
AS and AS, we advise that they should, not really get involved in, relationship and marriages, because when AS marries AS, there's a 25% chance of having a child with sickle cell disease in every pregnancy?
I'm a voluntary blood donor. So a voluntary blood donor is somebody that periodically, maybe once every 3 to 4 months, donates a pint of blood. That's 1 bag of blood for patients that need it. Because we are a country that we have shortage of this blood. So we need more people to be donating so that when the unexpected happens in terms of emergencies, it's not really available for them to use it for other people that need it. Don't look at the place that the needle is entering and then before you know it, in the next 5-10 minutes, you have given your 1 pint of blood and you have donated that bag of blood to save somebody's life, which is a very good thing that somebody can do.
The move to enlighten the society on the ills of irregular migration has continued to gain momentum in recent times. Government, relevant agencies, as well as other stakeholders now intensify campaigns against a desperate journey through holistic approach. Even the International Organization for Migration is engaging traditional, religious leaders and other critical stakeholders at a one-day sensitization event. It was held in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Take a listen.
And we invited religious and traditional institutions, the leaders, to Abuja in 2019, so that the issues of human trafficking can be discussed with the mind that in their own quarters, either in the churches, either in the mosque, or either in the traditional setting, they can further talk about these issues and find lasting solution. This is a follow-up of that, and this is done in Edo now. We have just done the one in Delta. Edo is a follow-up to that, and we had brought in religious leaders, we had brought in traditional rulers or leaders, and we had brought in government partners.
Talk specifically about human trafficking. It is the exploitation of that, but it goes beyond that, because I've also mentioned some other aspect of trafficking that is also regarded as human trafficking, like organ harvesting, child labor, forced labor, begging. So human trafficking has an expanded, definition, not strictly on things that have to do with prostitution.
We are all agreed that the menace can stop, and it starts from home, good parenting, and if all is well with you at home, no one would like to wonder about.
Migration is not the end of the world. When you migrate, while you are there, you have to be useful to yourself. So if you don't have the education or a basic skill, you.
What do we look out for in, say we want to look for, that's to actually identify. We have to say precise and careful identification of a presumed victim of trafficking is necessary to tell the victim's physical safety and rights and ensure that they receive access to vital services.
From the previous figure I gave, from 70 to 80% of return migrants are exposed to several types of exploitation.
There are indications that the Benue State may be faced with a higher level of food insecurity due to a combined long-armed conflict and violence by Fulani herdsmen, as well as bandit attacks, which have disrupted farmers' production inputs, reduced market access, and localized food production. Some of the young farmers, in an interview with Plus TV correspondent Francis Turr, decried a series of herdsmen attacks in the state, which have resulted in a shortage of food production this season. One Innocent Odrum, who said he had reduced the level of his cultivation following a series of attacks on their communities, however now disclosed that with the presence of security operatives, many like him have gone back to their farms but could not farm in large scale.
Unlike me, I am a farmer. Before, I used to farm almost 10 hectares, 8 hectares of maize, almost 10 hectares of beans, 2 hectares of rice. But now, I can't be able to do that because of the issue of insecurity. Unlike before, I used to farm here free because Fulani herdsmen were not around in this our locality. But with times goes on, they came to our community. We used to farm in the riverside. As we used to farm in the riverside, many of us are farmers. We are locally farmers. We don't apply fertilizer on our crops. We believe on the nature of that soil. But what we used to harvest from the riverside is better than some people who even plant and apply fertilizer. So since Fulani herdsmen has come, we are always scared because sometimes they might even attack us. They can graze our crops. They have weapons which we are always scared from. Even though if we are farming, we farm with fear that they may attack us.
Yes, our farming, our community is very in large quantity. Before we used to farm like 7 or 8 hectares of rice or cassava or maize, but now as things are occurring, we are not being able to make some of our farms. Some of them are very difficult for us now to do because of the insecurity of this pyramid. We used to farm plenty like maize, cassava, but now this Fulani attack, we are not being able to do it again because sometimes if we farm cassava like this, they will come and they will graze everything that we have farmed there, and the cassava will not be able to grow. Sometimes it will just die like that.
Before, I have been farming up to 5 to 6 hectares of land here at Tiomu. But due to the level of insecurity, it has reduced my level of farming now. I have reduced from 5 to 6 hectares now to 3 hectares.
Can you tell us the reason?
Yes, the reason why I have reduced is because of the issue of insecurity in our locality and even in our country as large. Because before, as I'm speaking now, I normally used to farm at the riverbank side there, where the land is very fertile. Even without the application of fertilizer, yes, your crops will grow very well and then it will be greenish. But now, because of the herdsmen attack everywhere, and even there at the riverbank side, I'm now afraid of going there to farm again. So as for now, I've been farming close to my locality.
Now to the part of Africa, Belgium handed over the last remains of slain Congolese leader Patrice Lumumba, a tooth, to his family, turning a page on a grim chapter in its colonial past. Chief Prosecutor Frederick Van Leo gave the relatives a small, bright blue box containing the tooth in a televised ceremony and said the legal action they had taken to receive the relic had delivered justice.
Chief Prosecutor Frederick Van Loo gave the relatives a small bright box containing the tooth in a televised ceremony and said the legal action they had taken to receive the relic had delivered justice. It is not normal that the remains of one of the founding fathers of the Congolese nation were kept for 6 decades by the Belgians in obscure circumstances, never really elucidated. But what is known does not make us proud. Congo is set to hold 3 days of national mourning from 27 to 30th June in its 62nd anniversary of independence to mark the burial ceremony. The return of Patrice Emery Lumumba to his country will certainly allow the Democratic Republic of Congo to recover an essential link in its national memory. Beyond the Democratic Republic of Congo, an entire continent, Africa, is celebrating the return of one of its worthy sons. A fiery critique of Belgium's rapacious rule, Lumumba became his country's prime minister after it gained independence in 1960, but he fell out with the former colonial power in the United States and was ousted in a coup few months after taking office. He was executed on January 17, 1961, aged just 35, in the southern region of Katanga with the support of Belgian mercenaries. His body was dissolved in acid.
Outside Africa, authorities in Bangladesh have dropped off aid from helicopters to residents affected by the recent floods, which had left at least 32 dead since late last week. Bangladesh was experiencing monsoon downpours that triggered catastrophic flooding in the northeastern Sylhet district leaving around a quarter of its 15 million population stranded amid fast rising waters and swollen rivers. Authorities were attempting to deliver 1,720 tons of rice and 58,000 packets of dry food, as well as water purification tablets and medicines to flood-hit communities. Meanwhile, parts of southeast China continue to be affected by floods triggered by heavy rainfall, in footage aired by state broadcaster CCTV. In Kohu, located in the major manufacturing province of Zhejiang, rescuers were seen assisting a cattle farmer yesterday with flood waters reaching a cow's neck. Speedboats were also seen deployed on flooded streets to transport stranded people. China is a historically prone country to summer flooding, but in recent times, it has become more vulnerable due to deforestation, reclamation of wetlands, and storage of water for power generation and irrigation. Climate change has also been blamed. That's the news. Thanks for watching. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I'm Tolu Ojomi. Good morning.
Is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria?
Welcome to Cross Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Cross Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
peace without justice.
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on Plus TV Africa, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.